Welcome to a home day edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com. And ProCharge, ProChargeEV.com. All right, y'all, Saints roster cuts. What you say. NFL, I get rosters down to 50 on Tuesday. Saints did that. Some of the notable roster cuts. Jaylon Smith, although it seems likely that Jaylon Smith is going to return to New Orleans. Bradley Roby, who I guess we all assumed was going to be the Saints starting nickel, has really filled that role nicely. But that's going to be Alontae Taylor now, obviously. And then maybe the biggest surprise maybe were both the specialists. Blake Gillikin was cut. So Saints are moving on at punter. And Will Lutz was in fact traded to the Denver Broncos. I think we talked about that earlier this week here, where we had I know sometimes consider the source, like when certain media members are close with certain coaches. So like when Peter King floated the idea of the Broncos trading for Will Lutz, that came directly from Sean Payton. We talked about this last week. Maybe earlier this week. I don't remember. But there's no doubt that that's where they came from. Sean Payton and Peter King have relationships. So if you ever hear something about Payton's team coming from Peter King, it's coming from Sean Payton. Told you before, the same with Bruce Feldman and Ed Ogeron. Like Bruce Feldman wrote the book Meat Market years ago, prominently featured. They became close. It wasn't a surprise that when Ed was at LSU, Bruce Feldman always broke LSU news because he was getting it directly from Ed or Derek. So, so I don't think there was any surprise that the Broncos were making a play for Will Lutz. They needed a kicker, and Peter King got that from Sean Payton. I think the real question was, would the Saints be able to finish a deal? And they did. So Saints move forward with the rookie Blake Grupe out of Notre Dame, and then Will Lutz traded to Denver for a 7th-round pick. That's something the Saints just likely use as collateral because the Saints always trade up. So the more picks they can accumulate, the more draft assets they have to move up. So you get some. If you decided you were going to keep Blake Grupe, at least you got something for Will Lutz. So that was good to see. All right, so we'll start to see how the practice squad shakes out as well as the Saints get to work there. We'll see what players clear waivers. If you're not familiar how the waiver wire works, if a player is waived and the Saints, the Saints cut 8 players and waived 26 yesterday. So if a player clears waivers, basically any team can put in a waiver claim on a player that hits the waiver wire. And it basically goes in reverse order of last year's finish, right? So worst team in the league has first right, second worst has second right. So basically just look at the draft order as it would have been, and that's how waiver claims work. So if 2 teams put in a waiver claim on a player, let's say just hypothetically, the Saints waived John Trey Kirkland, just hypothetically. Let's say the Cardinals put in a waiver claim on Kirkland, and the Chiefs put in a waiver claim on Kirkland. Well, Kirkland would, the Cardinals would get the rights to Kirkland because they had the worst record a year ago. So that's how the Saints got Taysom Hill. The Packers waived Taysom Hill, expecting him to clear waivers. Then they were going to sign him to the practice squad. Well, the Saints put in a waiver claim on Taysom Hill, and and now he's been a Saint. So that's always the risk you run when you expose a player to waivers. But so someone like Shaq Davis, right, the big wide receiver from South Carolina State that everyone really liked a lot, Nico Lalos. There's a couple of players like that, that I'm sure they'd really like to have back. Jerron Cage, a defensive lineman from Ohio State. These are guys they'd no doubt like to have back on their practice squad, but they got to clear waivers, so we'll see how that goes. All right, let's say some good mornings here. Kelly Gross, Charlie Cavell, Brant Roban, good morning. Is the stadium LSU's playing at going to be hit by the hurricane? No, Brant, the hurricane is tracking more north of Orlando, so Orlando's going to get rain. They'll get outer bands and you'll probably heavy rain, but it's Wednesday, so by the time Sunday comes, it'll be long gone. And I guess the good news is that's not going to be affected. So, Charlie, any word out of LSU or Florida State about contingency for their game? No, I mean, according to both schools, and the people down in Orlando, there's no concern about the ability or opportunity to play the game. So, Hurricane Idalia, as I learned, it's actually a Spanish name. I think a lot of people are saying Idalia, and I couldn't figure it out yesterday. But a lot of you corrected me. So Idalia is going north. The hurricane is tracking north of Orlando, which is in the central part of Florida. So certainly, a very a dangerous storm, and we hope everybody is safe in the path of the storm. But from a
okay, hang on, I'm flipping around. We got the stadium effect.
Sorry. So just for the benefit, though, of everybody who's wondering about the game, storm's coming ashore, but it's looking like it's going. The eye will go north of Orlando, actually more toward right toward Tallahassee and Jacksonville, quite honestly. So Orlando's going to get effects of the storm, but a lot of rain and some wind, but shouldn't be anything that would prohibit them or preclude them from playing the game on Sunday. Trivia Carter, Tiger Diver, Nick Newbill, Baby Bobby, Tim Gotro, Weston Weaver, Kendrick Thomas, good morning. 7-4 corners is a bit shaky. Yeah, look, I mean, you went out this offseason and you added 4 guys via the portal, but 2 of them, J.K. Johnson is hurt, and then Denver Harris is running third team, so you're not really getting the benefit of either of those guys. I'll say this again for everyone who's for all the people who have insisted LSU is trying to teach Denver Harris a lesson, this or that. You're playing a top 10 team. You're playing a top 10 team with a 6th-year quarterback and their best receiver returning, and they went and got 2 really good receivers out of the portal as well. You're going to tell me that if Denver Harris was the best option on this team, that Brian Kelly would be cutting off his nose to spite his face? He'd be like, yeah, that's our best option, and boy, we're really thin there. We've even got safeties converting there to try to play corner. But, we got this dude over here that was a former 5-star, and he's a great player, probably the best one we got, but we're going to teach him a lesson. Come on, y'all. I've tried to tell you, now I can show you. The fact that Denver Harris isn't playing tells you what you need to know, shows you what you need to know. Yeah, man, Matt Plavidal, prayers to the people in Florida dealing with the Cat 4 hurricane. That's true, Matt. I mean, we're concerned about what the effect's going to be for a football game. That's a really strong storm that's hitting the state, so for sure. Brad David feels sad for Eric Gilbert's situation. Was hoping to be okay in Nebraska. Yeah, man. I just hope, somebody that he can get the help he needs before that situation turns tragic. And for those that are unclear, because a lot of people misuse the word tragedy. A tragedy involves a death. By definition, something is tragic. A tragedy involves death. And I know that's very morbid. I don't intend to be, but it's just very obvious what's happening with Eric Gilbert. It's sad that a lot of people don't understand it and continue to criticize that kid with all the normal barbs you'd expect grown people to lob at young athletes. Anyway. Brett DeGrow, good morning. Ransom Antoine, good morning. Traquan must be dating somebody's daughter because Traquan is injured. So my guess is what they're doing there, Ransom Antoine, is he made the team and then they're going to put him on IR. And so that'll free up a roster spot to re-sign somebody else. Brian Williams, good morning. Jeff G. Randall, yeah, that's right, Jeff. Randall Offreich, morning, Matt. What will be the move when someone goes down in the secondary? Taylor hasn't played well inside. Yeah, so that's kind of the question, though, right, Randall? I mean, so they're rolling with their guys. Ugo Amadi is probably your next guy. Devin Johnson, Jesse Brown, Matt, are you surprised the Saints kept 7 wide receivers? Yes, but I think so the ones that we knew, right? Michael Thomas. I'd tell you that maybe the biggest surprise they kept Kirk Merritt, and I think that's just a hat tip to Merritt moving a running back so he can play receiver, running back, and then also can play special teams in return. So the receivers they kept, and I guess technically they kept 6. So they kept Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, A.T. Perry, Traquan, and Keith Kirkwood. Now, Traquan's hurt, so Traquan is likely going to IR, and then they'll re-sign somebody. So really it's 6 receivers. Kirkwood made it as a running back. I'm sorry, not Kirkwood. Kirk Merritt. Kirk Merritt, not Kirkwood. Kirk Merritt's the one that converted to running back. Wendell Norman, good morning. Tim Gotro. Michael Strahan once said kickers are like toilets. Once you notice them, you only notice them when they ain't working right. Wendell Norman. Let's see. Bailey C. I feel LSU's more improved than Florida State from a year ago. So I think that's probably fair. From, I guess, if you say from week 1 a year ago. Week 1 a year ago, and we talked about this on AFR a bit yesterday for those that missed it. We got the video up at YouTube. But if you look at week 1 a year ago, LSU's starting cornerbacks were Mekhi Garner and Colby Richardson. The safeties were Jay Ward, Greg Brooks, and Major Burns. We did not see Joe Fouché yet, did not see Jarp Bernard Converse yet. Your starting linebackers were Mike Jones and Greg Penn. And then obviously you had Ali Gay and B.J. Ojolari and, Mason Smith, Jaquelin Roy. Smith got hurt, Wingo rotated in and really had a 3-man interior rotation. My point is, your front 7 is dramatically better this year than a year ago. Now, that's respect to Ali Gay and B.J. Ojolari, who are very good players. Jaquelin Roy is a pro. But my point is, you get Mekhi Wingo coming off of an All-American season. You actually have a rotation at defensive tackle. I think Savion Jones will match or exceed Ali Gay's production. You are exponentially better at linebacker with Omar Spates, Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins had 1 tackle in the game a year ago. Wasn't even a factor. So yes, you are defensively, I think, certainly in your front 7, dramatically better. Now, the cornerback, that is a very fair question of concern that a lot of people have. And we'll see how they fare once they have to go line it up for real. Offensively, I think the most gigantic difference is obviously your offensive line. I mean, Brian Kelly told us on Monday, he said at this point a year ago, I mean, the Monday before the Florida State game, they didn't even have their starting five settled. I mean, that's staggering when you think about it. Now you've got a really experienced group that have played together and talented. And so, yes, I think LSU going into week one is in a dramatically better spot than they were a year ago going into week one. Now, how LSU finished was obviously very strong, and so was Florida State. And I think both teams are just in a very different spot. Go Rilla, what's going on? Does Brian Kelly take the ball on Sunday? I'd hope so. Put Aaron Anderson back there. Cajun Country Matt, more just curious, how did you adapt to having a radio show, having to make an internet broadcast? Is it a radio show that's recorded? Was that a tough transition for your team? I guess you mean like that we're like with the video component. I mean, we still lead with radio. You know, still by far the overwhelming majority of our audience is terrestrial radio. But it's absolutely changed in that how you present things have to present as well. Like I'll tell Paul going into a segment, all right, this one's going to be one that we're going to repurpose on YouTube, like short form. It's not even so much the live YouTube broadcast. It's more for the YouTube clips, right? So like when we take an 8-minute segment about Harold Perkins, we put that on the AFR LSU channel. Like we got to go into that with the intention of understanding we're going to repurpose this for YouTube. So yes, it's definitely added variables. Reed Rule, Deborah Cowardier, Fon Sayad, good morning, Jeff Hawk, good morning, Tiger Diver. Matt, you ever think we're going to get the real story of what happened to Gilbert at LSU? I mean, Tiger Diver, I've told you this before. I mean, I don't know what else I can say without just blurting it out, that I'm trying to be respectful of this kid. I'm quite honestly surprised nobody has ever guessed it. I mean, look at his pattern of behavior. It is just screaming what is going on there. He comes to LSU. Ed Ogeron lies about his body aching or whatever to try to give him cover. He opts out. It's announces he's going to transfer to Florida, then changes his mind and goes to Georgia, and he can't get on the field the first year. Then he's on the field, plays only 3 games, and he's off. Then he transfers to Nebraska, and Matt Rule's telling you, man, we've tried to put resources around that kid, to help him deal with all the issues he's dealing with, and looks like he's on a good path. And then just days after Matt Rule goes to bat for him on the waiver, the transfer waiver thing, he's stealing $1,600 worth of like. Can you all really not see what is the matter? Like, really? I mean, maybe it's just because I'm familiar with it and it's just clear as day. And I guess if you haven't had someone that you love go through that, it isn't so clear. But man, I'm just so surprised that the amount of people that don't understand what's happening with Eric Gilbert. Like, look at the situation. He's not a thug. He's not wasting his life. He's not a bad guy who just is going to counter with all authority. Like, look at what's happening to that kid. Y'all really not see? Anyway. Let me go real quickly here, y'all. My apologies. I got about 3 minutes left. I got to get Drew up and get him to school. Adam Didier, Michael Cook, good morning. Chuck Bro, just in time football, my 16-foot LSU DBU painting on display. Wait, that went away. Hang on. In Fairhope, Alabama. Okay. Of course, had something at LSU related to Bama. Go Tigers. Y'all got to check out Chuck Bro's stuff if you haven't seen it, man. Really talented artist. And hang on. I'll post this link here, Chuck. Chuck did he's done 2 really, 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 really cool LSU baseball paintings. One is Dylan Cruz. Well, actually, I haven't framed it yet, Chuck. It's right here. Hang on. I'll show you. I got it flat because I haven't been able to frame it yet. This is one that Chuck did. It's Dylan Cruz with the trophy, which is phenomenal. I mean, it almost looks like a picture, not a painting. But Chuck did an awesome job with this. And then the other is a canvas that Chuck did. I see your DBU one. Oh, really cool. You know what? I'm just gonna click this link of your portfolio, Chuck, and I'm gonna post it. If anybody wants to see Chuck's work or you want to buy it, buy the prints or the canvases, I'm gonna go and post it in both chats so y'all can see it. Boom. Y'all check out Chuck's stuff. It's a great dude, man. Does awesome work. I posted in the link in both chats. Kelly Groves, Charlie Cavett. Whoops, sorry. Everything just popped right back up. Let's see, a couple more if I can. Hey, Dad. Good morning, Rebecca Claire. Good morning, Damon Gilmore, Larry Garner, Leon Williams. Biggest shock who didn't make the roster. I think Jaylon Smith, but I think Jaylon Smith is going to make the team. I think it's one of those things where, like Traquan, for example, is the best example. Traquan's been injured. The way that you do that is he makes the initial 53, then they put him on IR, so he's done for the year, or until they could bring him off of IR, because you can bring a player off IR now. And then they re-sign the guy. So what they could have told Jaylon Smith, for example, is, hey, look, we're going to cut you, but don't go anywhere. We're going to keep Traquan, put him on IR, and then sign you tomorrow. So, like, that's probably what they do. I mean, Jaylon Smith's tweet was like, thanks be to God or whatever. That would encourage that he made the team. But anyway. Jonathan Meyer shows you how important Desmond Ricks would have been. I get you. I don't know if you mean Desmond Ricks or you mean Eli Ricks. I guess either, but yeah. Lawrence Burley, good morning, Brett DeGrow. All right, y'all, I think I'm done. My apologies for those that I missed. I gotta run. So, y'all have an awesome day. LSU Daily is already live. Get it on your favorite podcast app. AFR at 3. We'll see you then. Peace.